Shri Chinmayanandaji Sadgurave Namaha. Om Ishavasyam Idam Sarvam Yat Kincha Jagatyam Jagata Tena Tyaktena Bhanjithaha Magridha Kasya Siddhanam. The seer of supreme experience, living in transcendental truth, has opened this Upanishad with this daring statement of the most sublime truth. The word Vasyam is a very pregnant word of sound in Sanskrit with unlimited suggestiveness and innumerable meanings. It may be used to mean to be clothed, to be worn as garment, to be inhabited, to be enveloped, or to be pervaded. And here, in this context, all these meanings are applicable. The great Rishi exclaims that all this that we are perceiving through our sense organs or by the intervention of our mind and intellect, all this is indwelt by the Spirit, which is the Lord of the world of perception. Spirit, muffled in matter, is the living being. In every entity in the world of objects, the Spirit indwells, permeating everywhere in its homogeneous, all-pervasiveness. Matter is but an equipment through which truth expresses itself in its dynamic form, life, as known to all of us. But in fact, beneath it all, pervading everywhere, is the very kernel of life, the Spirit or the Self, which is the Lord of these matter habitations. The Lord is thus omnipresent and acts as the governor, ruler, monitor, the governor of all environments, the ruler over all sense activities, and the monitor in all mental and intellectual functions. And yet, we are not conscious of this Lord. This is a great tragedy. And this is to be ended. Allow not this darkness of ignorance to shroud the light of truth. Bring out the Lord to envelop the phenomenal world, and thus in his infinite light, let the experience of multiplicity be to the enlightened seeker a vision clothed in celestial light divine, seems to be the silent import here. In short, life is the veil of matter. Clothe matter with the light of the Supreme Lord. In the false hallucination, experience the God vision. These are all implied in the teacher's exalted outburst of confident wisdom. When properly analyzed and logically re-evaluated, each one of us can end all our misapprehensions, and the spirit shall emerge out of all our mental projections and the consequent inner confusions. It is very well known to us that the body, mind, and intellect envelopments, that in body, mind, intellect envelopments cannot and will not function of their own. They being mere inert matter, unless they are vitalized by the life forces. The spirit is therefore called the Lord of matter, in whose presence the inert aspect in us gains, as it were, a semblance of life. And yet, in our preoccupation with the objects of experience, we are blind to the existence of and perfections in the subject, the great Lord. All this should be covered or clothed by Lord, Isha. The world of matter acts as the veil covering from our vision the divinity within. And therefore, we are unable to perceive the divine presence everywhere around us, within and without. The light of consciousness illumines all our perceptions, feelings, and thoughts. It illumines our sense organs, mind, and intellect. It pervades all and nothing pervades it. It pervades all and nothing pervades it. And yet, the paradox is that the world of plurality covers so successfully the vision of truth, in whose light alone the plurality can be experienced. In the Upanishads, there are two approaches to truth. One through the external world of objects, and the other through a subjective inquiry into this assemblage, which the seeker by error and habit has come to call as himself. This Upanishad, in its very first mantra, starts by a declaration that the seeker's own multiple personality is presided over by Isha, means the Lord. The student is apt to misunderstand here that the Atma is divinely sparkling only in himself. Maybe if he has got enough broad-mindedness, he may include in his concept all mankind, and many come to understand that the divine is presiding over the forms of only men. To negate this misunderstanding in the seeker, the very first line of the mantra continues in an adverbial clause to modify the pronoun this. It says that the term this includes and incorporates all that moves in this universe, including the moving universe itself and those that move not. The entire world of perceptions, feelings, and ideas exists only in supreme reality, just as all kinds of waves, bubbles, froth, and worlds exist only in the ocean. We cannot have a wave but in the ocean. In fact, the wave is nothing other than the ocean. Waves are but expressions of the strength, might, and power of the ocean. Similarly, whatever means yat kincha, names and forms are there in the universe, all of them are but expressions of the glory of the eternal truth. In themselves, they are nothing other than the spirit. The word Jagat suggests the state of change, samsara, samsarati iti samsara. And Jagat, jayate, gacchati. And ta is half, means momentary. The whirl of change to change. Not only the things and the beings that constitute the world is ever in a state of flux, but the very world that supports them all is also in a perpetual state of constant change. The perishables perishing in a world which is itself ever perishing, and such a dizzy phantom of constant change and therefore decaying phenomenal world should not be allowed to veil from our experience the eternal, changeless, omnipresent Lord, who is the immutable substratum for all changes. Change is relative. Without reference to something fixed, changeless, imperishable, we cannot ever recognize movement, change, or perishability. That eternal factor is reality, or the truth. And detecting this light of truth is no miraculous accident or arduous achievement. Pause for a moment and analyze any experience, and we can experience the ever shining reality behind all changes. The fact is that we cannot experience change except with reference to some changeless factor. With reference to the relatively steady trees on the roadside alone, can we detect the rate of change in our moving vehicle? We know the world is changing, but with reference to what? We know the very instrument of our experience, body, mind, intellect, is ever changing. But with reference to what? Are there momentary shows to scream the paramount divinity forever? That changeless entity, which is ever present in all changes, yet itself never undergoing any change at any time, is the truth which is to be detected, followed, and ultimately apprehended by us in the quiet of our meditation. For example, you understand a tree. If we analyze our experience of the tree, we will have to accept that our concept of the tree is nothing but a sum total of our knowledge of its form, sound, taste, smell, and touch. These are impressions interpreted for us. Just a minute. So there are impressions interpreted for us by our sense organs. If there are no sense organs, these impressions cannot be. But when the tree is destroyed and leaves no more any impression in our mind, it is not a zero factor, because when we were observing these factors, we were also unconsciously observing another common quality running uniformly through all these factors. In this argument, we negate Shunyavad. So there is a form, there is a taste, there is a sound, there is a smell, and there is a touch for the tree. Thus, we noticed. Devoid of all qualities as interpreted by the sense organs, there is yet in that tree the principle of existence as expressed by us unconsciously in our assertion of the isness. The table is, I am, you are, the computer is. That isness is the main factor. And this factor, the divine principle of existence, but for which none of these impressions were possible, is generally not noticed because of the perceiver's preoccupation was his perceptions. Beneath the perceptions, as it were, dwells this mighty spirit of perfection as a subtle divine power, all pervading, all pervading and eternal. Please mute yourself. I am muting, then again you are unmuting. So beneath the perceptions, as it were, dwells this mighty spirit of perfection as a subtle divine power, all pervading and eternal. The Upanishad starts with this stanza wherein the Rishi advises us that we must come to experience this spirit through a process of renunciation of our preoccupations with our perceptions. Perceptions change, but the truth behind them is changeless. Perceptions perish, but the truth is imperishable. Perceptions are pluralistic, whereas the truth is non-dual. To identify ourselves with this all-pervading truth is to realize the self within. To see it in and to see it in and through the disturbing trellis of phenomenal world is to realize the truth in the outer world of plurality. How this is harmoniously done is the very theme of the entire Ishavasyam Upanishad that we will see. When we are told of a paramount power presiding over the world of matter, the teacher advocates that we must come to experience this great, joyous perfection through the renunciation of our false values and attachments which we have cultivated in ourselves in the jungles of our own perceptions. The ghost vision frightens the deluded one, and his mind gets into a serious state of perplexity and confusion. The only way to pacify him and bringing peace and tranquility to his mind is to help him to discover the post, because the ghost appeared on post in a semi-dark condition. Now, to my friend who is agitated by the vision of the ghost, I and his companions who are seeing the post can only advise him, dear friend, renounce the form and qualities of the ghost and enjoy. Beneath the ghost is the post. So long as we are entirely engaged in the vision of the ghost in our mental preoccupations, we have neither the tranquility nor the intellectual composure to see the post. Having seen the post, the ghost can never be. The sight of the post is itself the discovery of peace within. For the present mental agitations are all caused by the error in perception and the consequent fear. The great master of the Upanishad, in this very opening mantra, advises his students to renounce the false and thus come to enjoy the real. That renounced, tena tyaktena. This is the effective part, the technique to experience the Lord that envelops all this. Ishavasyam idagum sarvam. Identified with the beauty of a sculpture, many a time we fail to notice the material with which it is made. Very rarely are you recognizing the paper on which these words are printed. You are seeing the ideas through the words' meanings and not the color of the white paper, and yet you know that these printed words are impossible to be read if the paper were black in color. To see the color of the paper is to ignore the words, to renounce the enchantments of and hunger for the names and forms is recognize the Lord, the Infinite. We are really indebted to Sri Madhavacharya for a beautiful new meaning to this portion of the mantra. Tena also means by him. So who has been indicated already as Isha, the Lord in the first line. Tena, therefore, is by him, means by the Isha. Tyaktena means renounced or gifted away. So tena tyaktena means that which is left to us by him, you enjoy. Bhunji thaha. Offer unto the Lord, and then as his prasada, what you get, enjoy it. So what is prasada? What God give you, what God's give to you, offer it to them, and then partake it, or else you are a thief. What God's give to you, offer it to them, and then partake it, or else you are a thief. Bhagavad Gita says, 3.12. Clear? So, just a minute. So today, up to that. Otherwise, it will be overload.